Welcome back to 100 days of bringing my hackathon idea to life. This is day 2, and we left off last time with some stuff I needed to do, and I'm going to also continue analyzing code like last time. Hopefully today will be super productive, and I can cross a bunch of stuff off my list and get some new ones on there.
How's it going? So I have a bit of bad news. I was doing a bunch of the review work on a bunch of AI generated code earlier, and I totally forgot to hit record on my OBS. So I actually don't have any video of me doing that, unfortunately. So instead, most of this is just going to be voiceover, and instead of having video, I'll put in a bunch of images, basically, to draw attention to some of the code that I really wanted to give some time to.
Well, ignoring the slight hiccup that we have, today I need to be addressing some of the stuff on my to-do list. Namely, I need to change the makeshift logo that the AI generated in the original version into the actual logo I'll be using for now. I also need to figure out the padding in the navigation bar right here, and exactly how that's getting there, because I kind of got stumped on it before. And finally, I'll need to figure out how the grid template columns works, because last time there were 2 columns for some reason, and I still haven't figured out why that is. I've also got to keep in mind that the padding for the main container doesn't really do anything, so I have to keep an eye out for it in the future as well. So the first thing is editing the logo. Since the previous logo was basically just a text box with a background, I can't just slap in a PNG and call it a day, because there will be no modifications made to it. Luckily, this is a pretty simple fix. We can just add the image tag to the logo tag from before to specify that it will modify the image we put in the HTML. This then changes the logo to become the same size, and to reflect this change, I'll just add in a comment about my edits. One thing to point out is that the background color of the logo no longer really matters because our PNG is on top of it, but it still exists behind the logo, and I'm keeping it as a failsafe in case the logo doesn't load in so that the box isn't just gone. Going back up, we can take a look at the code for the navigation bar. Last time, I was a bit confused on how the navigation bar had that space in between that we looked at earlier. Originally, I had thought that it had something to do with the HTML code, and that there was just a bit of hard-coded padding there, but after looking at the CSS for a bit, I found out I was wrong. It turns out the padding wasn't actually padding at all, but rather another piece of Flexbox functionality called justify content. In essence, all it does is take everything in the overall group of flexboxes and places them in a way that spaces them out evenly. This works based on the left and right sides, as well as how many flexboxes are present, so it's very dynamic and makes for easy but appealing formatting of objects. In our case, all it does is space out everything in the navigation bar, and because of that, it creates that little bit of padding that I thought originally was hard-coded, but it turns out it's just a gap. And now for grid template columns. So, to be honest, after a ton of research, I couldn't figure out why it was creating 2 columns still. All the sources I found online with W3 Schools, Stack Overflow, and other sites all seem to show that having a single 1FR in the formatting for the option should have put everything in the same column without any chance of creating 2 columns. I even copy and pasted my code into the editor on W3 Schools, and it works like I thought it should have with only 1 column, no matter how wide the window itself was. So for now, I'm actually kind of stuck on figuring out how this part of the code is working. I have some friends who do a lot of work on HTML and CSS, so I think in the next video I'll be referencing them to help with figuring out how all of this is supposed to work, because I really just can't figure this one out myself. If anyone knows why this might be happening, feel free to leave a comment talking about it, and I'll take a look and address it in the next video. If you're looking for the code, it'll be in the last video on my channel as well. Apart from that, the rest of the day was just spent analyzing some more code in the CSS portion of the AI generated code. There really wasn't anything particularly interesting, because most of the code that the AI was generating was basically just copy and pasting the same formatting as we previously looked over. There was one point where I got a little confused because the code said something about a ghost button that I interpreted as possibly a change when the button got pressed to become slightly transparent, but it turns out it was just the name of a button that didn't have a background to it. It just goes to show that as much as vibe coding works for creating stuff, it really needs to be looked over to avoid any kind of interpretation error in the future. I also ran into a different preset for grid template columns that uses the repeat function with autofit along with min-max, which basically made it so the flexboxes would change size based on what they needed to hold up to a certain size. It also made it so that the boxes could only be so small, which was also really helpful in cases where there wasn't a whole lot of text in them. That's where I ended off for the day without too many issues. It already feels like I've learned so much from the AI generated code that I kind of understand what kind of code the AI prefers to use. As a result, analyzing all of this code has gotten a lot easier and much faster. So that brings us to any notes and items on the to-do list at the end of the day. Notes hasn't really changed much since I still haven't exactly found out why the padding in the main section isn't doing anything, but I also haven't found anything super noteworthy either. On the to-do list side, I'm really happy to have finished 2 out of the 3 things we left off with last time. But like we talked about earlier, I still need to figure out grid template columns because I still don't quite understand it, and I think I'll be asking a friend for help on it in the next video. I'm also going to be adding another to-do item to continue analyzing the rest of the AI generated code, but that kind of goes without saying. Finally, we still have the long-term goal of moving the CSS properties to a dedicated file for the sake of organization. But yeah, that's it for today. Today's video was kind of a shorter one, but I think that because of my scheduling with classes and some other stuff that I've been working on, making videos that are going to be super long, like 10 minutes or so, similar to the last one, is going to be a bit hard for me to be able to work into my schedule. I think having shorter videos like this is definitely going to help a little, but if I do come across anything that's super important that I really want to go over, I will definitely be spending more time on those in the future as well. For now though, I'll see you in the next one, and hopefully we'll have even more work that I can show off for you guys.